And I now recognize Representative Mike Kelly for 5 minutes for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman. Vice Chairman, thank you for allowing us to be here today. You know, look, I think it's time for us to quit playing Who Struck John and talk about the problem we face. And it's getting down to there's no secrets in our family. There's just a lot of things we don't talk about. 4.5 million illegals have crossed into this country since the Biden administration went into effect. There's no way you can play with that. You can't twist it, you can't turn it, you can't make it a different color. The problem we have is we have nobody guarding our borders the way we're supposed to. The northern border is wide open. You heard what Ms. Tenney said, 5,500 miles, or 1,000 miles, right? That's 5,500 miles, that border. There's no way we can cover it. Then when you take, and you'll listen to the Border Patrol people when they come in, you take those folks from the border, from the northern border and take them down to the southwestern border because they're doing the intake, and you're looking at 40% of our Border Patrol down on the border in the southwest, and understand that 40% of those are working on the intake place. And so you come down today, so what is the problem? Now, Chairman, you very clearly stated what's taken place. The numbers are incredible. They're off the charts. Ms. Tenney repeated a lot of what it is that you just said. Now, we can sit here and point fingers and say, no, it was the other administration, it's not this administration. I will challenge anybody to go to the southwestern border and see who put up a fence. One is a really tall fence that you look at and say, my God, there's nobody can get over that, and the other one looks like the outfield fence of the Little League. Now, we can keep saying it wasn't us that did it, it was the other party that did it. The truth of the matter is, we have serious problems at our border. 4.5 million illegal entries into our country. If they were wearing the uniform of a foreign country, we would think we were being invaded, and we would be say, my God, who's watching the border? And the answer is the Border Patrol, but they are so strung out. They are so purposely sent one place to another. And this administration, by its failure to admit that we have a problem, is the problem. Now, the ranking member, I appreciate what you went through at the beginning of it, but again, it always comes down to, no, not us, them. Now, you talk about pieces of legislation that control and have some information, but it gets blurred into what the total side of the legislation is. I will just say this, and please.
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
I won't yield right now. I will not yield. It's taken us too long to get here. We had to form the Northern Border Caucus in order to get some attention because it was being it was just being ignored. When you hear what the Border Patrol goes through, then you can hear what those men and women on the border do. When I got to Erie and talked to those men, years before when I stopped by to see them, everything was fine. This year, you could see it on their face. They are drained. They are drained because they feel they have no help coming from this administration. Now, whether we like it or not, the truth of the matter is, look at the game films. You can't alter them. 4.5 million illegal entries into this country. That doesn't count the people that came through the right way. And just to think, for that 4.5 million people, if their first action upon entering the United States was to break one of her laws, that's not somebody I want to have in my community and say, I'm glad you're here, come on in. If we do not address this crisis at the northern borders, if we do not look at that border that's totally unprotected, there's just not enough men up there to do it. They are just worn out. Now, there's ways to, I guess, to address that, but a lot of that area is totally unpopulated. We don't know who's coming in or who's going out, but we do know the number of deaths. Those deaths from fentanyl are the ones that you look at and say, my God, this is somebody's son or daughter. This is somebody who we would love to have in our community, and because of this infestation, it's corrupting us. It's ruining us. It's causing us to fight them between each other as opposed to saying, look, we got a problem at our borders. If we don't recognize that as Americans, forget about the red team and the blue team. Think about what it is that we are supposed to do. The office that we are in right now, we take an oath to protect this country. And for us to say, no, this is going to be a political battle, this is not political for me. This is about policy. And nobody can tell me that this administration has addressed this when you completely ignore a crisis at our southwestern border and don't even mention the northern border. Forget about the thing with Trudeau over the weekend. That was a joke. That's not serious. So I would just ask all members of Congress to please stop looking at which side of the aisle you're sitting on and start looking about what's taking place in our country right now. 4.5 million illegals since this administration went into office. Now, please, don't tell me there's not a problem, and don't tell me it's being addressed, because the The reality of it is not being addressed, it is being ignored by the president, the vice president. They have turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to our borders. So listen, we can football this back and forth, but the reality of is America is suffering because of the inattentiveness and inactions taken by this administration. Thank you, and I yield back.